didn't actually go fucking live on the thingy, but it's fine. Okay. So we took questions on Instagram last week, so we're just going to work our way through those first, and then if there are any more questions in the audience, from the audience, then we'll do that as well. I'm just thinking, do we have to do the intro all over again? No, it's
yeah,
fine.
if you could. I didn't catch the intro, so I just watched it.
It's literally just gone live now.
Oh, bloody hell. Okay, right. Hello. That was a mess up on my end. Hi, welcome to the writing live stream for All the Young Dudes web series. I'm Livy. I'm like the main writer of Summer 1971, and I'm also one of the producers. We are joined tonight by Sarah, who is also one of our producers and in charge of story development. We are also joined by Bean, who is the main writer for first year, Ruth, the main writer for second year, Rachel, the main writer for Summer 1972, and Rem, the main writer for Summer 1973. So, you guys all sent us questions on Instagram, so we're going to start off with those, and then we'll take questions from the chat and then go from there. So, I think this is the main one that we always keep getting. Will this cover all the Young Dudes, or just some of it? Go on, who wants to take that one?
I mean, I feel like you should take that one, Livy, or Sarah, because you guys are the ones, like, tackling everything.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah?
Yes, it's going to cover all of the young dudes, to put it simply. Yeah, and I think that I totally understand why people keep asking that, because it's such a large project. So everyone's like, are you doing all of that? And the answer is yes. We are prepared for it. We have the writers for it. We all are like committed to writing the whole thing. So
yeah.
Yes.
I'm not gonna. I know we have a list. I'm not gonna go through it in order, but I'm highlighting as we go along whenever we go through it. So, it can be fun. Right. Which one's that? Will you be taking any creative liberties, or will it be a strict adaptation?
Oh, well, we've been talking about making some things so that we have some surprises for people who are fans of the fic, who've read it several times, just so you're not seeing exactly what you've read so many times depicted on the screen. So we're going to throw in some stuff. It's not going to be massive changes to the fic. It's not going to be massive changes to the storyline. We want to stay true to the fic itself, but we want to also make it a new experience for people who've read the fic several times. So
cool.
Yeah, it's such a large fic. We've got so much content to work with already that there's not going to be anything new, but there's going to be definitely some surprises.
Cool. So this is a fun one, I think, that can probably give more of us to contribute to for an answer. How are you planning on developing such a long story?
I'm just laughing because I remember what Rem said when he read this question earlier. I think Rem should take this one.
Go on, Rem.
Yeah. Incrementally is what I wrote. Incrementally. I don't know how else to answer that question, other than just incrementally. It's really the only way to write it, honestly. Yep.
We are very much doing this bit by bit. This is why we're currently planning from summer 1971 to the end of third year. Not only just because, like, you know, it's easier to break down such a long book fic into smaller parts like that, but it also helps us with things further down the line for when we film, like such as casting. It just means we can attempt to try and get the same one actor for like those first few episodes and then switch it and when we go on to like the next chunk of it, basically. And in terms of planning, we like to talk to each other. That usually helps with these things. We like to talk to each other and bounce ideas off each other about what we should do. So even though I initially had one idea of how we could break this down episodically, we had a meeting the other night which has some suggestions on how we should change that to make it easier for everyone else involved. So it's very much something that's like, it's an evolving process that we're doing incrementally. I think Rem was right. That is the best way to describe it. Okay, how do you make scripts with each other? What's the process? Did you make an outline?
There is an outline, and Sarah has taken the lead on that. So if Sarah wants to talk about...
This is just funny because I really was like, I'm not talking this time. Y'all are going to do all of it. Yes, there is an outline. The way that we went about doing it was, I mean, for those of y'all who follow me on TikTok, you know that I've heavily annotated all the young dudes. So basically what we did was we took not just my annotated copy, but then like rereading it and just breaking down the plot points. And this was like a kind of like conversation that we had with the writers, and like an ongoing conversation that we're having with the writers, like how to best like adapt this monster fic, right? And give it to them so that one, they're able to adapt the story that we have that we all love, but also, as we talked about before, they're able to have flexibility with like how they want to write scenes, how they want to portray it, whether it should be, you know, things that could be visual or dialogue or, you know, foreshadowing, like there's so many different things that you can do on screen that you might not be able to do in the fic, and that's what I'm really excited for. So yeah, there is an outline, and we basically just broke it down by plot points, and we're wanting, the biggest thing that I think the concern, or not the concern, but the thing that I want to make sure we do is make sure that the story and the themes are addressed. But other than that, it's kind of like, I don't know who said it in the meeting, but I thought it was like beautifully put, that it was like just right around like the plot points, like make sure you're getting somewhere, and like that's like all we need. But yes, we have an outline, and it was an endeavor. It took a couple of months, honestly. It was a project.
In terms of like how we're making the scripts with each other, so we've got 3 writers assigned to each episode. So for example, for my one, I'm like the main writer for Summer 1971, but Rachel and Rem are also writers on it. So the plan that we've sort of put in place is that like the main writer will write a draft, and the other 2 writers or anyone can like contribute to it. And then obviously the other main 2 writers of the episode will get to read over the draft and like make very obvious edits of it. And the other writers can make some suggestions as well, because we all want to try and input with each other's work, because we need to try and make it all flow nicely, and we all sort of fit thematically with like we fit in with each other like thematically and style wise as well. So yeah, that also kind of answers like what the process is. Next Friday, me and Bean are showing our first drafts to everyone, which is going to be really fun. We're nervous about that.
With my draft as well, like when it comes to talking about how we've been writing as a process, while I've been doing my draft, I've spoken with some of the other writers about it. I know me and Ruth had a call once where we were looking through my scripts, and Ruth was like making some suggestions in terms of like the way that I'd written certain scenes, and like switching around the orders and stuff like that, which was really helpful. And I'd like to do that more with the other writers that I'm, especially the co-writers on the episode that I'm doing at the moment. And then also like just shown my script to Rem as well and just been like, what do you think? You know? So it's that we're in communication all the time while we're writing, and I like that because I think it's going to make the scripts more cohesive as we go on. So I've been writing it primarily on my own, and also been sharing it with the other writers as we go along.
Yeah, and it's oh, go on, Ruth, you go.
No, go on, Rachel.
I was just going to say it's really important, because obviously we're quite a big writing team, because there's a lot to write, but also we just need to make sure that everything kind of ties in together. So yeah, it's been really great that we're having such a collaborative process and talking to each other, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, go Ruth.
Because the way that Livy's said it, different people for every episode. So each episode will have a core writer and then it has 2 collaborators. And so Bean is a core writer for year 1, and then me and I think Connor are the collaborators for year 1. So it was really cool to kind of work with Bean on that and get that vibe of that script and see what is going on. But I think it will tie in nicely, because if I've been working on episode 1, when I come to work on, I think I've got episode 5, I'm also collaborating on, and then I'm writing episode 6, I'll have that vibe because I've already worked on episode 1. So it'll be quite cool, because everyone should have quite a good idea of kind of what's going on.
Yeah. So do you have to take out a lot of detail to make the episodes the right length?
So currently, I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been trying to write up the script and keep it to the right time. But at the moment, what I'm doing in terms of my process for writing the first year episode is I'm keeping in as much as I possibly can for this first draft. And then if it's too long, I'm just going to cut bits out. But at this point, we're still not entirely 100% on the running time for the episodes. So I'm aiming for 50 minutes around. But then we're going to see what happens in terms of changes to the script later on. So yeah, I'm aiming for 50 minutes. If it goes over on this first draft, I'm just going to cut bits out, and it'll be in terms of like what's the most important things that we need to keep in. Like I said, I'm trying to keep in as much detail as I can at this point, because it means a lot to me and I just love every single moment of it. But like I said, I'll cut out bits to make it short enough. Yeah, if anyone else wants to talk about what they've been doing.
The thing is that not everything is going to be covered by a scene, obviously, because it is such a long fic that we've got to try and fit in. So like when me and Bean were writing, there were things that we were like, well, we could give this its own scene, but we could also reference to it and be clever with wordplay and be clever with, showing, not exactly like telling all the time. So you don't really need a scene to tell. You can kind of show it through, through just a sneaky bit of dialogue, or by character actions. So it might not be, everything might not get its own scene, but we'll try and pack as much as we can in other ways.
What's everyone's favourite part of the fic?
I'll go. I love Madame Pomfrey, and Madame Pomfrey in this fic is just everything. And it's a really small bit of the fic, and it's towards the end of Remus's Hogwarts years, and it's after a full moon, and he's like, oh, I was a right little sod, basically, when I was a kid, wasn't I? And she says, oh, you were never any trouble, Remus, even when you were a little boy. And I don't know why it's that big, 'cause it's such a small exchange, but like that to me is like, yeah, that was my favourite bit of the whole thing.
I know I could either go in one direction here or another, so I'm going to go the nonsensical direction and just say Remus commentating the Quidditch match. Yeah.
Yes.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I think that is tied one of my favorite moments. I when I read this, my brain automatically went to what I'm about to say. Then I was also like, but you know what, that Quidditch commentary chapter does slap though. And when I was reading it, I was like, I'm annoyed I didn't write this first. But my favorite part is when they drop Grant off at the station and he's about to go to Brighton, and he says to Remus, like magnets, you and me always snap right back together. And I had to close my book and throw it across the room the first time I read that, because I was like, this is too much. That line took me out, and I've just booked in to get magnets tattooed on my body because of it. So there you go.
I can't believe you booked it. I love that. My favorite part also includes Grant. It's where Remus runs away to find Grant at the squat, and James and Sirius just turn up, and Sirius is obviously as Padfoot, and I think someone just says like, "Is that your dog?" Like, it just tickles me. So that. Sure.
My favourite bit is summer 1977. Just genuinely one of the best lines in that is literally just Pete, a word. Like, we stan allied James Potter. But also it's when Sirius is like, oh yeah, message received as well. Like, I thought that bit was good, and then Pete, a word happened, you know, because it was just so like to the point. It was just so like, oh, you're in deep trouble now, mister.
I can't wait to write that bit. That's a bit that I can't wait to write, and I can't wait to contribute on, because to me, that bit in a book is paralleled to, I don't know if people have seen it in Almost Famous, absolutely brilliant book. Sorry, I say that because I've got the screenplay literally in front of me. Absolutely brilliant film, but there's a bit where they're on the bus and they've all kind of had an argument, and Tiny Dancer by Elton John comes on, and one by one this whole band, the Band-Aids, William, they all start singing Tiny Dancer, and then suddenly everything's better again. This band are back. They're just back. And reading that bit in All the Young Dudes, I was like, this has the same energy as that film. And because that film means so much to me, and so does Marauders, I feel like it just merged amazingly. So I can't wait to kind of get my hands on it.
Yeah. And Sarah, what about your favourite moment as well?
I feel like I give a different answer to this every single time I'm asked, which I think is fair considering there's so many like just golden moments in All the Young Dudes. Okay, my favorite part of the fic though is definitely Out of the Blue, because, and the thing is that I used to be like, oh, I don't know if that counts because it's the epilogue, but it's the part of the fic that I literally read every 2 days. Like, if I go 48 hours without reading Out of the Blue, like maybe I need
so
to.
Good. So good.
I posted a TikTok literally today where I was like, I think I finally realized that the reason I read Out of the Blue also so much is because that's like literally what I want my future to look like. You know, like me, I mean, I've talked extensively how much I relate to Grant in like some ways, but like specifically like his work. It's such a nerdy thing, but it's like, I hope my career works out the way that Grant's did. And like he has a house and a partner and kids. I don't know. I just think it's one of those moments where you're like, because there's so much like pain and like horrible things that you have to read about like the Marauders, especially if you identify with them. And one of the things I love about All the Young Dudes is that it's like, okay, all this horrible stuff happens to your favorite characters, but here's this like original character that you love and you want to be happy. And he is happy and he has a future and a life and a house with kids. So that's, yeah, it's my heartwarming little bit that I like rereading all the time.
You know what's really interesting? I didn't cry reading All the Young Dudes. Like, I was like completely heartbroken by it, but I didn't cry until I read Out of the Blue, specifically right at the end when Grant is like, hey Marcus, I've got something to show you, because he's got all the photos, and I just started bawling. Like, that was what like really fucking got me. I was just like, oh god, that's the bit.
Mm-hmm. I was the same. I didn't cry a single tear during All the Young Dudes, even though it really affected me. And then I just basically sobbed throughout from the first word, Out of the Blue. I don't know what it did to me, but it just like hit me like a ton of bricks. So yeah, I love that.
It's just so perfect. And I feel like I've been in Brighton on a record store day. You know, I could feel, sorry, it wasn't record store day, but like, you know, I feel like I've been in that environment. And yeah, just like the simple act of like giving the flat to Teddy, like property prices nowadays, that kid's going to be set. Do you know what I mean? And I find that really nice because obviously, you know, he's an orphan. And I quite liked that parallel. I feel like there was a bit of a parallel between Harry Potter and Teddy Tonks, Teddy Lupin, with like, you know, money. But
yeah, I think Out of the Blue just is it's so perfectly done. It's like the perfect ending for Grant, and it's also like, I know Swifty's favorite quote and favorite bit of all the young dudes is in Out of the Blue as well. So perfectly valid in that, Sarah. It's the bit where he's talking about I can't remember the name of the new kid he's adopted, is like talking about being scared of werewolves, and he's like, well, I knew a werewolf and he loved chocolate and all that stuff. That bit.
Stop it.
Because to anyone to think that this you know.
And also, it's just, I think about Remus's letter to Grant about when Sirius dies all the time. Thinking about it like every day. Too much. Out of the Blue wrecked me. I never ever will be able to.
Perfect and heartwarming, and then there's still so many absolutely heartbreaking parts that I'm just like, some days I let it affect me, sometimes I'm like, let me just skip over this. Let me just like let my eyes skim over this. Oh my god. But the little like story that Grant tells about like knowing a werewolf, like, I mean, come on.
When Swifty did that art and used that quote over the top of the video on TikTok,
I literally I've tried to delete that memory because I can't go back and look at it.
Yeah, I watched that video and I started to sob. Anyway.
Okay, right. Now that we're done with the emotional trauma of the Q&A, let's do something fun. What are everyone's tips for writer's block?
Stop writing. Start reading. Honestly, you're going to drive yourself crazy if you just sit there and you're trying to write something that obviously is like at a standstill. So just stop trying to write it for the moment and go do something else that usually inspires you to write. Otherwise, you're just going to be whacking yourself over the head with whatever you're writing eventually. So it's better just to like step away from it for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah, I
good.
agree.
I do the exact fucking opposite. Because for me personally, I've realised writer's block is just because it pops up because it's like, I don't want to write something specific, even though I know I have to. So what's one of the many things I'm writing other than this? Okay, let's put it this way. With my Sherlock fiction. Okay. Right, there's like this whole...
Really outing yourself here, Livy.
I'm so outing myself here, but like with my Sherlock fanfiction, there's like a bit that I really want to get to, and it's when Sherlock's pretending to be dead and having all these adventures, and so there's like a whole at least 20 chapters before that happens. And every day I'm like, I don't want to write this, so I force myself to fucking write it, because I'm like, if you do this, then you get to write all the fun stuff. Or alternatively, I just jump ahead, write some of the fun stuff, and then I realise I have to like go back and actually write the stuff I don't want to write, so I just still have to force myself to do it anyway. That's how I deal with it. I jump ahead, write anything fun, and then like existential dread sets in, and then because I realise I still have to write the stuff I don't want to write anyway. Sometimes you just have to force yourself to do it.
Yeah, see, I just saw Emma said that this didn't work for me the last time I updated my story was February. See, but the problem is you can't walk away from it and say, I will work on it eventually. You have to give yourself like a time limit. The time limit should not be 6 to 12 months of a break. It needs to be like a day.
Yeah, on that.
That isn't easy. 6 to 12 months. I mean, what's wrong with that?
It comes with practice. You have to practice the thing. You practice. This is how you get good at things.
I think that setting deadlines is really important. Like, I have always been one of those people where literally every other fic I've ever published has taken me over a year to write, and they've been like barely 30,000 words. But with this one I'm writing currently, It's like I've written I've written I think almost 90,000 words of it now, and it's been consistently written within the last 3 or 4 months. It's because I've been giving myself a deadline of, you will update this every 2 weeks. It will be 10,000 words. So get your ass in gear and just write it, okay? I've just been basically like featuring myself. I've been like, a homework is due. I will be giving you detention if it's not in. And I'm like, all right then, I guess.
Teacher Bean has come out of, you've got to do your homework.
I've got to do my homework. I get home from school and I write all evening.
It's good for me as a reader because I know to check in every 2 weeks and make sure that's updated. And so
it will be updated tomorrow, Ruth. Don't worry, I've got you back.
I still need to catch up on A Taste of Honey. I've been too like...
This whole live stream has just been subtle promo for my fan fiction. Please go to AO3/user/by Remus. Anyway, my tips for...
Drop that AO3 link. Get that promo.
Rachel, what does AO3 stand for?
Rachel, tell us what AO3 stands for.
I woke up at this morning like this. I just went, I know what the 3 in AO3 stands for now, and I don't know what happened, but I literally always just thought it was just some weird thing, like, because I never used AO3, I always used fanfiction.net, and then I woke up this morning and I was like, it was like a huge revelation, and no one was sympathetic.
Very funny. My tips for writer's block, though, are to have multiple projects on the go and force yourself to write something every day. If you've got multiple projects, even if you're stuck on one of them, you can go, oh, I'll just work on that thing I've had on the back burner for ages. I've currently got, I think, 3 different scripts on the go, 2 different fan fictions, and then just things. So I'm just like, if I can't write A Taste of Honey, I'll go and write my original screenplay, or I'll writing the web series, you know?
Yeah, it's honestly getting in the habit of just writing every day.
That's the big one.
You just really have to get used to writing every day.
My New Year's resolution
now that I've got
write average 1,000 words a day. So yeah, there you go. That's me.
I was just about to say some of the best advice I have ever gotten from Stephen Moffat. Just flex. Sarah, stop it.
I'm honestly surprised that we've gone this long in this stream without Livy name dropping someone. So congrats, Livy. I think this is a record.
To be fair, it was at a Comic-Con. So it was a panel. And he was like, write 1,000 words every day. And like, that's how you become like a good writer. And it will, you know, basically. And that also does help with write as well. Because it can be 1,000 words of anything. And also one of my lecturers at uni, one of the screenwriting lecturers, she said that she always started off her day writing 3 pages of just whatever, like a stream of consciousness thing, because she said it then clears your head, so that when you actually get to writing what you want to write, it's already there. You don't have to think through all the weird funky stuff. So always, like, if you're a writer, always write immediately when you get up in the morning, just to get out the weird shit, and then go and write your proper stuff. I thought that was really good advice as well. So yeah,
for sure.
Okay, how does screenwriting differ from other writing forms? Is it difficult to imagine on screen?
Okay, I'm going to jump in with this. I'm going to jump in with this one because it's easier for me to screenwrite than it is to write like in the form of a novel. Because, as you might have guessed, it's really hard for me to form coherent sentences. But if I can just type it down and say what everyone says in how I want them to say it, I can then go in and add, and just block out people's people's actions. So for me, it's easier than like writing like other stuff, but I find poetry really easy to write as well, But mind you, I do just kind of slap out like one really great poem, and then I don't touch poetry for another 6 months. That's always how it goes. But yeah, for me, screenwriting is the easiest form.
So I'm like new to screenwriting from this project. So the first real, I wrote a bit at uni, but the first real screen play, I was trying to think of the word. You see, this is how new I am. That I wrote was the submission for this project. Like my history is with poetry primarily, but also some prose and some fan fictions back in the day. And for me, the main difference is like it kind of works to how I write in a weird way, which I wasn't really expecting. Because I'm a very visual writer, I like to think of images. Like I'll think of an image and that'll inspire me, or I'll see something and be like, oh, what could that mean if I wrote about it? And like for me, the change from like writing poetry and some prose to screenwriting has actually been really good, because it's allowed me to like take that visual stuff. And yeah, it's all about the visuals, isn't it? You can't just have someone saying big monologue and that's it. So yeah, I've been finding it really interesting. And yeah, I'm loving just learning from everyone, really. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, like what Rachel was saying, it's like screenwriting is a very, like, writing for screen is a very visual media. It's a medium, I mean. So I really appreciate that. I was a music journalist, so when I went to concerts, I would have to convey that writing in a visual way. So I really like writing that way. I enjoy it more than writing fiction in a way, because I get sort of lost in it easily versus screenwriting. Screenwriting just feels more fun for me.
I don't know how many people in chat know what a screenplay looks like. We could show like what, like, because I have an example up on my Google Drive. Would you be interested in like seeing what we're talking about, just so you have like a visual of how different it is to like prose or poetry or like a theatre script, because it is fairly different.
Let us know, because
yeah,
Livy's scripts are great.
They are.
They're okay.
On that last question, I find screenwriting a lot more difficult than writing prose, straight up. I find that it's a lot less restrictive, that having that much freedom for me in terms of like when I'm writing my narrative pieces, I control everything in terms of like the way that lines are delivered, in terms of the way that people looking at each other. Everything goes down to what I have put down on the page. Whereas I find that in screenwriting, it's a lot looser representation, because you have to leave a lot of stuff to the actors. You have to leave a lot of stuff to the people, the director and things like that. I find that a bit difficult, because I have the image in my head of what it's going to look like. I know it's not going to look like that. So I find it a lot more difficult to sort of step back from it in that way. And I love writing scripts and I love doing screenplays, but I do find it a lot more difficult than just bashing out a fan fiction, you know? I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Because you have to be so careful with how much emotion you put onto like dialogue, because you don't want to constrain your actors too much, because they've got to be able to portray the emotions you want them to portray, but also they need room to do what they want to do as well, and it also needs to give room for the director to do something with it as well. There's like so many things to consider with it, but okay, chats for the idea of showing a little bit of a screenplay. Just gonna say now,
want to see that.
I can do it. I can share screen, so it's not gonna be all the young dudes stuff. It's just to show an example of what a screenplay.
Yeah, you're not getting that yet.
You're not getting that just yet, but we'll come to it in a moment. So I really hope this shows up all right on the frickin' stream thingy. No, it's fuck, it's not gonna, is it? Bollocks. Oops, sorry. We just completely lost the thing. Hold on.
The stream?
Yeah, hang on. It's just gone dark for a sec. What?
Oh yeah.
I just
When?
broke everything. Oh, good job, me. But I think they can still hear us. That's fine.
Yeah, let us know in the chat if you can still hear us, because we
This
would
is now
love
turned
to
into
know.
a podcast.
What's
Um,
just happened? Hang on. Let's try doing this again.
I'm aware they can hear us, but someone just said, I thought we found a loophole.
Yeah, they all just wanted
I
the
love
first year
that.
script. Yeah, they can still hear us, so
They
we're
can
on
hear
podcast mode right now.
Right.
We'll-
What's just... We're on podcast mode.
Honestly, I come off better on podcast modes.
Oh wait, now we can see a little box in the corner. Oh, there's a white box on the screen
This is
now.
what the
I see the chat from Zoom.
There's the Zoom settings.
I see a white box. I'm not.
Okay, we're back. Right.
Austin in the chat. Austin, please.
Okay, right. I just realised I probably need to set that up properly next time. Anyway.
Oh.
Well, should we
Oh my
take,
God.
I think it's time to take questions from the
Oh, I
chat. So if Sarah wants to read things out, we should do
Yeah. Let's see. If you'll have.
Wait, we're back now. They can see us again.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I got it working.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm just waiting for questions.
How about them Yankees?
Is that basketball?
Okay, while we're waiting, I have a question.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
I know you kind of talked about it before, but what kind of writing for all of you are you most comfortable with? Have you done in the past? Anything interesting you think people should know about your illustrious careers?
I was a really
Last
cool
joke.
I was a really cool music journalist for a while, and then I quit.
Daft Punk.
So that's
Yeah.
me.
You quit to become Phoebe Bridgers.
Yeah, I quit to write Punisher for everyone during the quarantine. You're welcome.
I was trying. Is Punisher in my vampire playlist? I have no idea.
I feel like it is.
You
Is
would
it?
have a vampire
I listen to
playlist.
that on the daily.
Rem, it's for my script.
Libby's writing a really cool script, and they sent me the playlist for it because I've been reading the script, and they were like, "Here's the playlist." And honestly, it's fire. I listen to it on the daily.
We lost Ruth.
We've lost
Because there's a lot of
Ruth.
in-excess.
Oh,
okay.
R.I.P. Ruth.
Rip Lou.
There's some more questions
Oh,
coming
she's
through.
back.
So I managed to grab some.
Who's your? Oh, I like that question.
Which one?
Who's your least favorite All the Young Dudes character?
Snape.
Oh, yeah. Who's everyone's least favorite?
Dumbledore.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Dumbledore.
there's also Dumbledore, but also Snape.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
Mine's
hate
Greyback
Dumbledore more.
still.
Oh, Greyback, yeah.
Yeah.
Greyback.
Barty Crouch Jr.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
good
So
shout.
the thing is, right, I'm not good with timelines. I'm not good with things. So when I first read the fic, I forgot that there was a Barty Crouch Jr. So I thought that it was like Barty Crouch, Chinese fireball. Ooh. And I thought it was him. No, it's the junior.
Oh my god, Ruth.
That's really funny. Rachel, is yours also Dumbledore? Did everyone
Yeah,
say?
I think it's got to be Dumbledore. I think that I'd like as an adult rereading the Harry Potter series started to dislike Dumbledore as when I was a kid. I was just like, Dumbledore's great. And then I read The Young Dudes and I was just like, hang on a minute. Whoa, this man.
I really wanted to punch that fictional senior right in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really love though that I know that this wasn't the intention because we know that Joanne is not that smart. I love that when you read Harry Potter as a child, you like idolize Dumbledore and think that he's really cool and amazing and magical, and then when you reread it as an adult, you're like, this man would not pass a DBS check.
None of the
Hogwarts teachers would pass a DBS check.
You read it as an adult and you're like, oh yeah, he definitely would have groomed me to be a child soldier. Like, them as a child.
This is a good question. Are you making sure to specify the ethnicities and accents of the characters while writing the script, or does that come later? And they said they stand Northern Lily.
I also stand Northern Lily.
Yeah.
When I've been writing,
multiple of you do, so I was like, I want to include that.
When I've been writing it, like in the fic, it specifically says that Lily has a posh accent, and when I read that, I was like, nuh-uh.
In my
Thank you,
annotated copy, I've just got like Northern Lily.
In the script, I was like, Lily is Northern, and she comes in and she's like, all right. I was like,
No wonder James Potter loves her.
yeah, James Potter would love her. He'd be like, this one. She said A up to me and my heart it flushed.
In regards to like, you know, specifying it whilst writing, yes, you need to specify it whilst writing, otherwise you're going to have a really fun time trying to figure it all out for casting. Because there's this very innate problem in mainstream filmmaking where if you don't specify the ethnicity of a character or the accent of a character, casting directors will automatically cast it as white. I mean, I think things are getting better with that now, where you don't necessarily have to, and they just effectively do colorblind casting, but that's not great, because it shows you've not put any thought or intention into the characters that you're writing. So yes, we've had a couple of meetings about how we want our characters to like where their families like originally came from, and like me and Sarah had a very particularly in-depth meeting about
me and Libby have like all of James Potter's like ancestral lineage figured out. Like we haven't,
because we wanted to, so obviously there's a very there's a headcanon that goes around about James Potter being Indian, and so because Sarah is Indian, her family comes from India, and shockingly enough, my mum's side of the family also does, so we figured it would be a good idea to just like get our heads together and talk about it, because obviously I live in the UK, I'm more aware of like the Indian communities that are in the UK, and Sarah's got a very incredible knowledge of like Indian diaspora and their history, so we would like, you know, and we were like, right, specifically where does James Potter and his family come from?
My degree in Asian diaspora studies
in London.
The meeting was like my degree in Asian diaspora studies, Livy's family, and we just sat there for like 2 hours and we were like, we're gonna get this exactly right. We're gonna know like what street James Potter lived
I think, didn't we pin down that they lived somewhere in Mayfair because they would have been like, they would have lived there long enough to build up the wealth to be able to still live in Mayfair.
We were going back and forth. We were like, how does this make sense ethnically? Where like people like concentrated? Would James Potter live where these people are concentrated? Like, it was a whole.
It was a really fun meeting. So that is something we do really specify down to a T. That's very important.
Yeah. Also, I mean, just to add on to this, I think like, you know, Livy talked about it from like, you know, the film industry side of it. And also as someone who like doesn't make these things usually, like being in the room and being able to be like, this is the problem that I've had with other representation of marginalized people and other, you know, POC. And often what happens is that if there is someone that you're excited is being cast, their character isn't written to that, right? And so that's what we want to avoid. Like we want to make sure that, you know, these marginalized identities are getting their, you know, all the attention and care that we can give them. So yes, we are definitely doing that. Austin asks, and I don't know if we really have an answer to this because we're still in like the writing draft stages, but it's still an interesting question. Wait, I just lost it.
I can probably whip up an answer.
Okay, yeah, I know. That's what I figured. I was like, I can figure it out.
Was it about making London look like the 70s?
Yeah. So considering this is set in the 70s, how are you planning on making London look like it was in the 70s?
I don't know
We've got TARDIS.
I don't know where Austin is from, but you'd be surprised about the amount of architecture still in London that is 70s, like, as heck. Like, I'm gonna sound like such an ass when I say this. So I was wandering around Marylebone the other weekend, and there's a lot of like your typical posh London white houses that are either houses or flats or some sort of business. You don't really know unless you ring the doorbell sort of thing. But it goes from that, and you walk round the corner and it's just like these very obviously 70s flats that were built in that time and just haven't been updated. And they're very overpriced for the size on the inside, because one of my friends that I work with, he used to live like near Marylebone, near like Baker Street and all that kind of thing, and he lived in one of those flats, and it was nice, it was small, but it was very much like, I'm sorry, you're paying £800 a month in rent and your room is a box. Like it's like, yeah, these flats are like something of their time, and they're so obscenely gentrified nowadays as well. It's ridiculous. So it's not that hard to find places in London that look like the 70s, basically. The other option is that if you have to film somewhere where it's not necessarily very 70s, visual effects is an option. One that we want to try and avoid. I work in VFX, if you don't know. So that answer is sort of like, no, we want to find somewhere where we can film where it's a bit 70s, so we don't have to get some ridiculously talented digital matte paint artist to paint out shots for us, basically, because that's the other alternative. And obviously set dressing for smaller bits, like areas, is like a thing. So
I think somewhere in the outline I have like just like a comment like of like a scene that popped into my head, and I was like, in parentheses, I was like, if it's possible, if Livy says it's okay. Okay. The next two questions I think I can kind of combine, and I think everyone can kind of have a go around with this, but is there any scene that you think is indispensable? What scene do you think is crucial, maybe for your section? Like, is there any scene that you're maybe I'll change the question and say, is there any scene that you're particularly excited about writing, like in your section, if you've thought about it?
Yeah, I could answer the opposite question.
Go for it. Go for it.
Well, the very first day I sat down to write the script, the first thing I dropped in the writers' chat on the Discord was, do I really have to write the sorting scene, though? I just added Sarah, and I was like, can I just ignore the sorting? Can I just talk about it later? Do we need to see it? You know?
I think I read that like as soon as I woke up, and I was like kind of groggy, and I was like, honestly, points. Like I don't know.
I was reading the fic, and I had the script open, and I was like, there is no way I can write this scene where it's not 10 minutes long, boring as hell, and just so repetitive. I was like, well, just have them on the train being like, what house do you think you'll get into?
We got round that really well, though.
Yeah,
you did.
We got round that really, really well, and that's the bit that we worked on. And I got off of that call, and I was like, this is great. This is going to be amazing. And this is what I mean again by like, not everything will have its own scene, but it will be, said in dialogue, or
but all the
covered, in a different way.
So like, do we mind if I talk about the way that I around that?
No, go
for it. Go for it.
So basically, got them all on the train talking about the houses, because it was important that we have that scene in there, even though it doesn't appear in the fic. And then Sirius is like panicking about, I'm not going to get sorted into Slytherin. It's going to be like talking about something about wanting to get sorted into a specific house, and then it's like smash cut to Sirius sat at the Gryffindor table like, oh my god.
Yeah.
that's how we got around it.
And the thing was is that when you like described it to me, I was like, see, that makes like such perfect sense. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, also one of the benefits of this being like a fan film, adjacent to sub fandom, whatever you want to say, to like a series that people know really well, is that we can take those two scenes and trust that people know what the hell we're talking about, and also we're able to do something funny with it that has never, what's ever like really that funny about that would have been funny about that scene,
And
I think that's like what's beautiful about like the way y'all are writing this and talking to each other, because there's so many things where I'm like, I didn't think of that, but I think that's.
And I think what Bean's written is absolutely amazing, like, because we've got the boys talking as well about, like, you know, their hopes and like, oh well, it'll be okay if I'm in this one, I guess, like just their, and I feel like through that you get a good view of like their personalities as well. So yeah, it's a good thing.
I'm so excited to read Bean's script.
Please don't put this pressure on me, Sarah. You know I respect you too much.
Pressure. I'm just waiting, bated breath.
We got 10 minutes left.
Yeah. Let me see.
The question that's just come through on the chat, very similar to one of the ones that was on the Google Doc.
Oh, yeah, about Remus's internal monologue. Right,
Yeah.
so I'm a sucker for voiceover, straight up. That would be my way around it, but also I'm aware of the fact that we can come up with far more creative ways of doing that and doing things visually. Because please excuse the language for a second, we are past watershed here in the UK, but voiceovers can be very wanky after a while. There's no other way to describe it other than that, so excuse language, but that's straight up, like, you've got to be so
There is no watershed on the internet, it's fine.
But we're in Britain, most of us.
I live by the rule, there's no watershed on the internet.
I'm just trying to be respectful of chat here, so...
Yeah.
But yeah. So there's that as an option. Or, you know, he likes to make a lot of lists as well, so you can sort of do it visually, like in editing or even like filming as well. But obviously the writer who writes those particular scenes would be, it would be at their discretion on how they want it viewed, basically. But there's a lot of options for getting around his internal monologues.
Right.
I have a lot of thoughts about how we could do discussions with imaginary Grant later on down the line. I know we're not focusing on that in this series, but I have a lot of thoughts about it. I can't wait to share.
Write something on a Google Doc and drop it in the writer's room. I need to hear it immediately.
Because I have been thinking about that nonstop.
I forgot that
Sarah, text me. I have thoughts.
I'm ready.
Such a strong visual in my head of what it's going to look like.
Okay. And then, I mean, also a note on that is like, because I feel like I've been learning so much from y'all about like screenwriting in general. And I remember when we were talking about like the internal monologue for Remus, like the thought or the example that I have that I feel like pretty like explains it pretty well for people like me who don't understand what y'all are talking about sometimes. Sometimes I have to Google the words and I'm like on the side like like just make sure I know what they're saying. The thing that I thought about was like, for example, I feel like when I was thinking about the internal monologues, I was thinking a lot about Peter in particular, because there's so many moments where Remus is like thinking about how Peter is like responding to a situation, and that's how you get characterization from him. But there's so many ways to show that visually, right? Like if you can like, if Remus is thinking about, you know, Peter, you know, how he orients himself with the group, there's a way to show that, like, I think the example that I said was like, if you had a scene and Peter was always the one like trailing behind, like that shows like characterization in a way that like Remus may not have like thought about exactly, right? Like there's ways to do it. You just have to be really creative about it. And I think that's kind of my favorite part about this is like, I'm thinking visually for the first time in a really long time, because I'm used to like writing everything out narratively. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. I think we got through the bulk of the questions asked. There's some stuff about locations and stuff like that. I think that's kind of like something we're gonna like approach as we get to it, and like we flesh out the team and like the actual like on the ground crew.
The thing is, though, I do have an answer. Like, sorry.
Okay, Libby, answer the question.
So because this is technically like, it's classed as a small project. It's harder for smaller projects to close off streets entirely because you need a lot of money to actually do that, especially like, say, obviously there are scenes that take place in London, especially with somewhere like London. All you really need is a location marshal in a high-vis vest to just sort of be like, we're filming, please hold for a second, and then let people walk past when you're between takes and shots. That's how I've done it before. But also the other thing with like locations as well, the main thing you just need is permission to film from the local council. That's it, really. But yeah, you usually have a dedicated person to be like, no, back off, please stop, please hold. So yeah. Right, so we're coming to the end of the stream, and we did have a few ideas of like what we want to do for you guys. So like different writers taking over like our TikTok account and like talking about either writing or just making memes, because there's a lot of memes that have sort of generated from this project alone.
I think our TikTok needs more pigeon videos, personally.
I agree.
And then writing live streams where the little team of writers per episode we can do like a live writers room, I guess, but we won't share the actual script itself, because we also have the idea of doing little table reads between the writers of different sections of the scripts, and I'll also figure out a way to actually share screen whenever we want to show you like, okay, this is what a script looks like, because yeah. Because I think that would be really beneficial to all of you who don't know that, like, who are not necessarily like that into filmmaking or don't know much about filmmaking, just so you can see like how we're writing. Basically, it's quite fun. It's a very different format to what you would expect. But yeah, has anyone got anything else to add before we sign off?
I don't think so. I just had a really good idea about conversations with Grant, so I furiously scribbled that.
Oh my
down.
gosh.
Dean, what have you started?
Listen, it's a very important conversation we need to have.
It is.
And
It
I've
is
been
a very
trying,
important conversation.
every single writers meeting we've had up until this point, I have been thinking about when is it appropriate for me to bring up imaginary Grant? Not yet.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it too, so it hasn't just been an isolated.
I've been thinking about it.
Okay,
Oh,
I think
get
we
off
need to
pause and we're
schedule
like-
a meeting specifically to
Just
talk
for
about
imaginary
Grant.
We just have an imaginary Grant
The
meeting.
Grant chapter
Honestly-
meeting.
Honestly, at this point, I feel like that can be something we can do fun for ourselves. You know, like,
Yeah.
it's very-
Yeah, agreed.
it sounds like
Okay. What was I going to say? So, Austin in chat, if you are genuinely interested in helping out, email the All the Undude series at gmail.com. That's the
It
email
is,
address.
yeah. I think he has already.
I didn't
Yeah, I
see
think-
I didn't see an email come through. Or you can just DM me on Instagram at Lady of the Internet. I will get back to you personally, because you seem to have a lot of knowledge of the filmmaking stuff, and I'm like, hello. That's me. That's me.
Austin also seems to have a hookup for equipment, maybe. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw
Austin
that.
was telling me about that today.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure we'll do another live stream at some point soon with the writers or anything. When we start like casting and whatnot, we will get Ro and Sirius on, because they're in charge of casting. They're researching casting websites at the moment. So don't worry, you will get to see Sirius again on the stream one day. We did see all the comments asking where Sirius was. He's not part of the writing team, so it doesn't make sense for him to be part of the writing streams, but there will be like, you know, there will be general team live streams. There will be things to do with casting and filming where we'll all be here, so don't worry. But other than that, we hope you enjoyed this live stream, particularly the technical blip. Sorry about that. Our social media links will be in the description underneath this video once it goes up after processing, and we'll see you all another time. Thank you so much for watching, everybody.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.